What's going on, Broncos country? Before we get into today's video, if you are like me and you are done with the cold weather and ready to be outdoors, having some summer beers and ready for warmer weather, then go ahead and like this video. We're based in Dallas, Texas, and even though I'm not from the area, some of the softies down here just can't handle the cold, like producer Trace, who came in looking like a snowman basically today. So go ahead and like this video if you are done with winter and ready for spring. Today's Broncos Breakdown is presented to you by the Fetch Rewards app, where you can earn points on any receipt from any store or restaurant and then redeem those points for gift cards and other great rewards. So check them out at chatsports.com/fetch. Use promo code Broncos for 3,000 bonus points, and we'll tell you more about them later on in today's video. Speaking of today's video, it's all about QB options for the Broncos in the draft and free agency. Because let's say Denver has a big swing and a miss in the trade market. Well, then they got to evaluate their other options, which is draft and free agency. And we're going to look at two names in both columns in today's video. So let's start on the draft side thing here. Broncos team writer Eric Delilah, he tweets this out. NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah says Kenny Pickett probably fits best in Nathaniel Hackett's system out of the QB prospects. Also calls Matt Corral an intriguing option for Denver. We got Corral and Pickett. So let's compare them head to head, and then we'll kind of break them down one by one. So if you look at the numbers just by themselves from this past season at their respective schools, Pickett blows Corral out of the water almost in every category. Same completion percentage, essentially, way more yards, a phenomenal touchdown to interception ratio, and in the same amount of games. Now, I don't think it's fair just to look at the numbers and go, okay, that's a done deal. Pickett's a better quarterback than Corral. That may be true in this case, but just don't apply that to every single quarterback in this upcoming draft. First, let's take a look at Kenny Pickett here. So, if you look at Kenny Pickett and watch him play, and you go back to the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, did he have the best arm? No. Is he the most athletic or mobile of the bunch? No. But he's also a fifth-year guy from Pitt who learned a lot, and in the last draft cycle, he was projected to go in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. And what did he do? He went back to Pittsburgh and worked on his craft and got better throughout the offseason, and now he's a top 10 pick pretty much. And I think you can draw a lot from that, actually. The NFL is full of talented guys. But if you ever wonder how NFL draft busts happen, I think a lot of it is there are players who were talented the most in high school and in college, and they just thought they could ride that talent and never have to work on it when they get to the pros. And then they discover that defensive ends are just as fast as running backs. And you have to improve if you want to have a long career in the NFL. And shout out to Kenny Pickett, who worked on himself throughout the offseason to get better. And I think that's something GMs admire and something they will think about a lot when they decide if they want to draft him or not. As for Matt Corral here, Matt Corral does have a better arm than Kenny Pickett. He's much more athletic. He can use his feet. He can extend plays. But my issue with Matt Corral is he only knows how to throw to a couple different routes. Right? If you look at Ole Miss's offense, they love to go deep. They love wide receiver screens, and they like getting the ball out of the quarterback's hand as quick as possible. They don't have a extensive playbook. In fact, it's more like a pamphlet, actually, that Lane Kiffin used down in Ole Miss. So I just worry that when Matt Corral's time comes in the NFL, he'll be like, listen, I've never done half of this stuff. I don't know how to check out of something. I don't know how to read a defense. I was never asked to do this in high school or college. I was asked to throw bombs down the field or get it to my wide receiver on the sideline. So that's why I worry about Matt Corral. If I had to pick one, I'd go with Kenny Pickett. But what do you guys think? Who would you pick? If you think it's Kenny Pickett for the Broncos, give me a KP down in the comments section. Or if you like Matt Corral more, give me an MC. I'm casting my vote for KP, but let me know what you think down below. Next up on the show, we'll look at some options in free agency for the Broncos. Because like I said, if Rodgers decides to stay in Green Bay and Wilson doesn't happen, and they don't get Garoppolo or Cousins or Wentz, well, they got to look somewhere else unless they want to roll with Drew Lock, which I don't think they do. That's a little sad news for Drew Lock stands out there. But before we look at the QB options in free agency, I want to tell you guys more about that Fetch Rewards app. It is completely free to use, and all you do is scan receipts that you already have crumpled up in your pocket and get points for them. But let's say you like to do a lot of your shopping online at Amazon or just any online retailer store. What you can do is you can link your email and your Amazon account to Fetch Rewards, and boom, anytime you make a purchase there, you don't have to pick up a thumb, you don't have to do anything. You're just going to get points, and you take those points and you redeem them for gift cards to your favorite stores, favorite restaurants, Amazon, Target, whatever it may be. So head on over to chatsports.com/fetch. Get started there, where you can earn points on any receipt from any store or restaurant and redeem them for gift cards and other rewards, completely free to use, and all the information you need is in the comments and high up in the description of today's video. So get started and get some bonus points on us when you go to chatsports.com/fetch and promo code Broncos. Now let's look at some free agent options. I've identified two names that are very popular this offseason. That's Mitchell Trubisky, a former second overall pick, and a fellow former second overall pick, Marcus Mariota. So just be glad the Broncos don't have the second overall pick this year and are picking a quarterback, because I guess Carson Wentz was number 2 overall. Now I think about it more, but here we go. Okay, back to the story. Trubisky. So we're not going to look at his numbers this year in Buffalo because he basically has none. But you go back to his last season with the Chicago Bears, where he played 10 games between himself and Nick Foles, and those aren't the numbers you like to see out of a guy you want to turn the reins over to. Granted, he only played 10 games, so they're going to be on the lower side of things, but things did not work out in Chicago because Trubisky's inability to read a defense and go through his progressions. Instead, he only knew how to look to the first guy in the playbook, and after that, he kind of had some brown stains on the back of his pants. As for Mariota, we'll check him out in just a second. But if you have not subscribed to the Broncos Breakdown already, please go ahead and do so, because I love what I do here, and I can only do it if I get studio time. I need subscribers to get studio time. So if you want a shout-out on the next show, subscribe, comment me, and I'll give you a shout-out on Monday or Tuesday's show, so be sure to stay tuned for that. That way you can see your name on the screen and get some love from the rest of Broncos country. Trubisky, though, to wrap him up, is an intriguing name because the guy hasn't played a snap of meaningful football in over a year. Yet his name this offseason is way more popular than it was last season. In fact, so much more popular that last offseason he signed for the Buffalo Bills for $2.5 million. I'm guessing this offseason that number's going to go up. Somehow he'll make more money from not playing football. That's what's so interesting about Mitch this offseason. So keep an eye on him if the Broncos cannot land a quarterback in the trade market and they don't want to draft one. But if it's not Mitch, maybe it's this guy. Maybe it's a guy in the AFC West, Marcus Mariota, who in the last 2 years has hardly thrown the football. That's the takeaway I want you guys to have here. 60% completion percentage for 230 yards, just 1 score and 1 interception. So I don't know how comfortable I am if Hackett and Payton want to bring in Mariota, who's thrown the football almost as much as I have in the last 2 years in the NFL. That's a bad thing to have in common with me. And that's why I'm a little bit more out on Mariota. Also, I don't think he fits what Nathaniel Hackett wants to do in Denver. Hackett in his press conference is like, we want to get butts in seats. And you know what gets butts in seats? Bombing the football down the field. And Mariota, that was never his forte. He was never a quarterback that would wow you by letting it loose and ripping it 60 yards down the sideline. That's not who he is as a quarterback. And so if Hackett's going to come out and say, this is what we want to do on offense, and then you sign a quarterback who doesn't mesh that whatsoever, I don't know what we're doing. But we looked at 3 quarterbacks in the free agency market, or 2 quarterbacks in the free agent market, and then you got Drew Lock. And we'll talk about Lock in more detail in a second. But who would you want of those 3 guys? Just comment their jersey number down below for me. I'm expecting to see a lot of 3s, but if you want to go bold, want to put an 8 or a 10, I don't think you'll get your head chewed off too much by the rest of Broncos country. Now, this is where I think people get a little worrisome for the offseason, because I do believe there's a good chance that the training camp and preseason could be between Drew Lock and insert name. I don't know who that name is, but if it's, if they get Rodgers or Wilson or Deshaun Watson, there won't be a competition. But if they do get Trubisky or Mariota, or they draft Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral, there absolutely will be a quarterback competition. And we saw it last year. And I don't know how much we are moving forward if we're just repeating it, but just slightly tweaking the battle. I think I've seen plenty from Drew Lock in 24 career games as a quarterback in Denver. Now, to his credit, it's been tough because he hasn't had the greatest coaching staff that's geared to help a quarterback. Vic Fangio doesn't know quarterbacks very well. I think that's fair to say. But still, in 24 games, less than 5,000 yards, 25 touchdowns to 20 interceptions, and a sub 60% completion percentage, I'm just not that in on Drew Lock. So that's why my deal with Drew Lock is, what more do we have to see, right? I think we've seen enough. I think 24 games is enough of a picture to know if he's the guy. And I haven't seen enough out of him to believe that. And that's why I'm thinking, sure, there's excuses. He gets thrown into bad situations. There's been some good moments. You had that nice 5-game stretch in his rookie career. But still, I just go back to the fact that I've seen Drew Lock throw the football a lot, and I've seen him miss his targets, and I haven't seen him improve on his biggest weaknesses, which has been the ability to connect with his receivers, which is kind of important as a quarterback, accuracy, and also his ability to go through his reads and not just be a one-check quarterback and go, oh, shit, I'm just going to bomb it down to Jerry Jeudy, hope it falls to his hands and not someone else's. All right, that's the end of my TED Talk on Drew Lock. But what do you guys think? Do you have faith in Drew Lock? If you do, give me a Y for yes. If not, get down in there and put your N for no. I hate to say it, I do not have faith in Drew Lock as a standalone QB1. I'd like to see some competition brought in with him if that's the direction the Broncos choose to go for 2022. We'll catch you guys later here on the Broncos Breakdown.